Good morning, sim fans. Racing 393 again for the next test drive. Today we're looking at the Porsche 911 GT1 98. Bit of a different car from the last one we drove yesterday. Yesterday was an out-and-out race car built just for racing. Where as you told yesterday, that the Porsche only built a certain amount, took some for themselves for racing purposes, and the rest they sold to customers, very rich customers, I would suggest. This, however, slightly different. So we can start maybe a little bit of understanding the difference between, the GT1 prefix, GT2, etc. As the name suggests, 98. Don't need to tell you what year this car was. This car was built in. The initial Porsche, Porsche did this 911 GT1 let me just check. So I've got my little book of information. It debuted in 1996. Again, Le Mans. So I'm not 100% sure whether this particular vehicle was driven around the Nordschleife. It probably was, but I can't guarantee that. It had loads of races, according to the stats. 144 races, 47 wins. I'm guessing that's probably class. When you look at a Le Mans field, it's not just full of the same class of vehicle. You've got, someone will have to correct me on this, but you've got many different classes, so you can still win your class, not necessarily the overall win of the race. Having said that, it's had 34 pole positions in its time, so that's testimony to how good this car was. It's actually designed to compete, as you know, in the GT1 class. Now, the main difference with GT1 is that Porsche need to make street legal versions of this vehicle. I mean, can you imagine? I've just bought a Porsche and you turn up with this. This would be pretty good. Over 600 brake horsepower. It's limited. The production is a limit. They've got sort of like Ford Escorts. They haven't got to produce that many. So it's a limited number. A little bit of history on the car. It did international sports car racing. It's one of those sports which it dives and it peaks and troughs. It had its heyday back in the sort of the early 80s, isn't it, and up to the 90s when the car we drove yesterday, and then it kind of, with the sort of the rules and regulations and one thing or another, things change, and it kind of took a dive. Kind of the mid-90s, when this new sort of era of sports car race, it took a bit of a revival and started to pick up again. And it was then the FIA GT Championship was what this car was predominantly used in. So again, it would have probably have had in those days GT1, GT2, GTE, I think they are. And this category is for like heavily modified versions of the road car. So again, they all had to be production. So you could go and buy one off the street, as it were. And we had things like the proverbial McLaren F1, Ferrari F40, when this 911 GT1 was competing. I mean, to be honest with you, it's again, you can't really fault it for like its pedigree. Another iconic colour scheme, the Mobile one. Again, this is another car which I've never driven. I don't even know what it looks like inside. So this is kind of as it is. A little bit about this car. It's twin turboed, so I'm expecting a nice kick. Obviously, the engine, like most in these days, mid-mounted, and it's. I mean, you're looking at perhaps 600 brake horsepower. Something that weighs. I mean, I've just got it here. Actually, I was looking at that a minute ago while I was talking. It weighs 1,000 kilos, so I suppose that's quite heavy, isn't it? It weighs a ton. Have I got that right? Let me just read that. It's got two weights here. That's a bit. I don't quite understand that. 3.2 litre, water-cooled, twin-turbo mid-engine. There's obviously two different weights. I'm guessing the first weight is probably road curbside weight. What the car would weigh on the right road, which that makes sense. And it's got another weight. It doesn't tell you that though. I'm just guessing. It's 950 kilos, so it's below a ton with over 600 brake horse. So I'm expecting quite a lively car, quite revvy, where the car yesterday didn't rev as much, did it? It was a bit more of a lower tone, so we'll see on this one. I mean, there's probably people out there that have already driven it and know what to expect. I'm just looking down some Le Mans stats here. Apparently this car, it was instantly successful out of the box. It won the GT1 class on its debut. I mean, that's pretty good, isn't it? And then, although it lost the overall victory to the Porsche WSC 95. So again, you're looking at perhaps it was probably as quick as what that Porsche we drove yesterday. In retrospect. So right, I'm all set up, ready to go. The capture looks good. I do try to keep these captures down to about a minimum of 30 minutes, so I'm sort of under time at the moment on that one, because by the time I finished chatting yesterday it was 10 minutes, we're only like 7 and a bit minutes in. So, and I did realise yesterday that when I put my headphones on, I was shouting. It seemed it's almost like I'm actually really out there at the Nordschleife in my Porsche. I know it's not, and there's many people that think you're probably taking this too far, mate. It's just a bloody game. Yeah, but it's good fun, and it's good research looking up. I mean, that's testimony for the game, really, because it's not just a game, is it? It's the stats are there. I know Kunos have used all the data from the vehicles to try and get the cars as close to how they would be. The tracks are laser scanned, so it's all as real as it could be. I mean, it's never ever going to replace real life, is it? And as we get on in our age, I mean, I've been racing years and years and years, and still am, but in a smaller capacity. This is a good alternative for when you get a bit, I'm thinking when you get a bit older. When you're young, you're sort of a bit more sprightly, aren't you? And out you go, rain or shine, when you're racing. You've got less responsibilities and stuff. And as you get older, it's just things just change, isn't it? I mean, not everyone's the same, I guess, but for me personally, I quite like my mix of real life and sim racing. It kind of keeps me buzzing by. We all work hard at the end of the day, so anyway, I digress again. So we're gonna try this car out. So again, it's a Nordschleife Porsche 911 GT1 98 version in the Mobile 1 colours. I've just read that it should be sequential, so I'm guessing I'll use my paddle shifts here. It should be 6 speeds sequential. So I'm going to stick my headphones on. I'll try not to shout if I can help it. And the reason I chose the Nordschleife is it's a long track, like I said yesterday. It gives you a chance to actually try the car out. Some iconic names there on the top of the car. If you're into your racing. You can see that these sort of pictures leading up to the game are sort of snippets of the car. You can see it's far more sophisticated inside. I quite like using my H shifter, but it kind of suits to use paddle shift on cars that have paddle shift. That's one thing the game's good at, actually. It kind of defaults to what the car would have, so you haven't got to switch between the two controllers, whether it's H pattern or your sequential. It does it automatically. I know some games you can override that. I don't suppose that's a bad thing either, really, is it? I mean, if you haven't got a H pattern plugged in, then, or on this game, you just don't tick the box and use your paddle shifts. Or if you've got a controller, God forbid. Right, so again, we just have a quick look at the car. You can see there the McLaren going past, so it's sort of racing with cars of its era. This is one thing that Assetto Corsa does need. It just needs a bit more variety of cars to race with. Thing is, I did read, just going off on it. I was going to do the Formula 1 car around Nordschleife, the Ferrari, which I might do. I did have a go at that yesterday, and that's quite good fun. But apparently, something to do with the FIA and the Formula 1 licence is you can't actually have a race with other Formula 1 cars. I think they've all got to be Ferraris. Otherwise, it's deemed a Formula 1 game. And if there's no licence in the game, it's illegal. Again, it's more bullshit. Again, this is Formula 1 being... I mean, I like, as those that know me, I still like the Formula 1. There's a lot of people that hate it. Again, I mean, I do agree it's not as good as it was. But, you know, I'm here and now. I do enjoy it. I like all that. But it does get a bit ball ache when it's just racing today, isn't it? I mean, God, FIA and Bernie Ecclestone and so on and so forth. It just seems... And then obviously that rumour with Silverstone losing out. Is it getting too big for its boots? I don't know. Anyway, back onto proper racing, I guess. So you can see all the Ferraris going out. I'll let them go out because I don't want to have a crash. Right. So we're in the car. You can see here it's got it's quite, again, nicely set up. You've got a little bit of side window this time. Again, it's still like, it's not a huge amount of visibility. That big pillar there sort of, it's going to block views on the right hand side. Right. So my clutch works. The H pattern doesn't. So the clutch is working. We'll give it a go. Put the old tyre temps on. I've hit the arm car already. Only gone out of the pits. Well, that brake's sensitive. I mean, I've got exactly the same settings. I'm starting to shout, aren't I? Same settings as yesterday. Quite a nice sounding car. More tinny. One thing I've noticed there, it's got a lovely turbo overrun, the wastegate. I don't know if you heard that whine then. It feels lighter. Hasn't got quite as much torque. Ooh, got a bit out of hand there. Just taking it easy. Yeah, he's got like, the wastegate on the turbo, which is pretty good. It hasn't got as much power as the Porsche 956, which is expected, I guess. I'm just trying not to go flying off the track. I mean, the brakes are far more sensitive on this car than the Porsche yesterday. That was past where Niki Lauda had his crash earlier on. A little kink back then. But it handles alright. I mean, wrong gear then. It does ride the curbs a bit easier than the Porsche yesterday. You go near the curbs yesterday in the Porsche 956. Doesn't want to know. The steering feels a bit heavy. I mean, I've got the same weight on steering. We'll go around the proper carousel this time. Well, I've come off it there. Cars don't tend to like that part, I find. Not modern cars, anyway. So, a bit of left foot braking through this part. I'll try and get my pace up a little bit here. But I'm trying not to go off. That's the half the problem. I don't want to crash. I'm trying to sort of get used to the car. That's a bumpy corner, that one. And it just spun there. At least I heat the tyres up. That corner always catches me out no matter what I do. I like the sound of that turbo, that is good. They got that off to a fine art. Very impressive. final carousel for the end of the lap. Bit flat at that one. So a bit of an estimation of top speed. I don't know. We should get to near 180, 190. It's got 6 speed. So there's 180. Pretty hairy at this rate. Don't think it's going much quicker than 183. This corner's bumpy. I'm shouting again, I know that. And in here, you really got to hang on to the car through that bit. So there we go. That was a quick, well, it wasn't a quick lap. What I mean was, it was a lap of the Nordschleife in a Porsche 911 GT1 98. What it's called then. So that's pretty good. Now, if I might stick it on replay because it's better to watch something and hear me talk than a blank screen. So there we go. So overall, I enjoyed that. I particularly think the sound in that car, with that wastegate and the turbo whine, is brilliant. They've got that. That reminds me of the days of, you know, the rally cars and that used to do that as well, didn't they? The turbo wastegate. That has really sort of struck a chord. Car handles really well actually, considering that's the first time I've driven it. I got round, only spun once. And there it is. It's a pity the replay called that, isn't it? Never mind. But I'll do quite a neat little parallel park on the lines. That was good. Anyway, yeah, I enjoyed that. That car's good. It's very, you know, I could see. You can easily understand why GT cars are really, really good to drive in games if they're done properly. You know, we go back to like GTR, GT Legends, sort of back in the Simbin days, I guess. The guys that made Simbin. It's kind of it's one of those eras which you've bypassed it a lot. Cause it wasn't, you know, back then. It's not in the media as much. It wasn't on TV. You know, Sky wasn't as broadcastable as it was now. You know, it was very limited. You only read about it generally in motoring news. You know, I'm not going to go into the wheres and who had Sky and when and what and back then, but it wasn't certainly on mainstream TV, and I think that's half the problem. And now it is, but it's changed. Like nowadays, what the cars now are different to what they were then, and that's without going back as far. I mean, I remember watching the FIA sports cars which we drove yesterday. Well, I don't know if they were FIA back then, but you know what I mean. That Porsche, I remember them being on TV. And they were captivating even then, but it wasn't on enough. And in these cars here, you know, 98, yeah, I probably had Sky, but I don't know whether it was on. I don't know whether these had these on like a TV show on the sports channels. I don't know. Never seen them in real life. They to me on TV they seem less spectacular on TV. Or used to, these type of cars, until, you know, in real life you can actually hear them and they sound better. But anyhow, it doesn't really matter. I'm sort of going into sort of a different sort of subject there. But yeah, overall very impressed. Got to say, I'm quite a fan of these GT cars on the Assetto Corsa. They've seen, this is where it's kind of, it's winning, isn't it? The game's better in that respect. You know, I know I said game, but you know what I mean. You know, when you can things like Forza and the Forza franchise, that's a game, isn't it? That's how a game should be. It should be fun, playable, and varied. This lacks a little bit in varied. You know, it's not as comprehensive as it could be. I'm hoping it is. And if Kunosao actually, again, are you watching this? If you do, I suppose I could tweet it, couldn't I? Tweet the link to them, see what they think. But just as sort of matter of I understand progress, but it would be nice to keep this. This game's fairly moddable. It would seem. It seems that it's quite. You can add cars, you can get licenses for cars, you can scan your tracks. It is good. Try not to steam straight into Assetto Corsa 2 if you can help it. Keep this one plodding on. You know, I still think, like for example, Project Cars had lots more potential, yet it's sort of stopped now. Very good game it is. And they're making Project Cars 2. That's not until reportedly 2018 or 19 or something I read somewhere. But obviously it'd be a new physics engine and so on and so forth. And I get that. This has got a lot more longevity yet to it. So hopefully they'll keep progressing with cars, car packs, tracks, modes, you know, a championship mode which you can edit yourself on, and they're doing online lobbies, aren't they, for personal lobbies, so you haven't got all the crash fest. So yeah, overall I like this. This is really, really good. The car sounds well. It handles better than the 956. It can ride the curbs. It's not quite as quick. It's more sprightly, it is lighter, it's easier to drive, and I like the sound. The sound's really good. So again, have a go, let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you guys, well not see you guys, I'll do another test drive very soon. Cheers!